Hi, I know we're at the end of the day, but this is going to be a treat. My name is Latarria Coy. I'm the head of ethical media at Influential. We're an influencer marketing company. We service about 70% of the Fortune 500. AARP is one of our partners. For the last 2 years, we've been working with them on their influencer strategy, which is interesting, right? You probably didn't think about AARP and their influencer strategy. I'm joined by Barbara Shipley, the Chief Brand Officer of AARP, and today we're going to be talking about the intersection of multi-generational consumers and culture. So I'm excited. Let's get started.
Yeah, well, let's get. Oh, actually, I think you basically kicked us off, and it's kind of been interesting to me watching this whole day, which has been fantastic, and just how many sort of light, medium, and heavy references there are to age in every conversation that we have. We apologize for something. I'm sorry, I have to use note cards, or I need to put my glasses on, or you're sending me too many emails, and I know I'm old. And actually, what you just said is the reason why I have a job. Because we don't want our brand to show up and be this kick in the gut that tells you something that you don't want to hear. There's something really interesting going on that's been going on for years around aging. So I'm not going to ask you guys to raise your hands if you're AARP members, but I would like to ask you to raise your hand if you're aging.
All of the above.
We're not going to get into maturing. So everybody raised your hands, right? So there's something interesting about age and what happens in this country and all around the world, but a lot more in this country around age. And one of the things that we've talked about a lot is the resistance that we have professionally, creatively, personally, to think about age as an element of diversity. So you look around the room and you think about how diverse this audience is, or you look at your audience segment and you think about how diverse it is, or you look at your creative teams and you look at how diverse it is. And are we thinking about age? And chances are we aren't. And I'm not even suggesting that we think about age only so you include the 50-plus point of view. Bring your younger people in and ask them what they think too. So when we talk about fighting ageism, which is a big piece, so I don't have to take a chair and have somebody say, stop sending me emails, I know I'm old. It's because we seem to be okay with this last ism. And I don't want to make this a preachy at all. That's not the purpose of this. It's just to be thinking a little bit about how we approach older people really in our work. Let's just look at it in terms of our work. So one of the things that we've talked about is the sheer number of people, and you probably know, you have all the data. Does anybody know how many people over 50 in the US alone? Really? Anybody want to guess? 110 million people. So there are 110 million people over 50, and the fastest growing age segment in this country is people over 85. So when you think about who your audience is and who might be buying your product, please don't ignore people over 50. As a matter of fact, let's get to know them a little bit better. And that's part of what we do when we talk to the creative industry like this. And also the responsibility that we have at AARP, I want our brand to be really relevant, because if our brand is relevant, it means the 110 million people and all of you, as you start to get older, will continue to be relevant. So the key when you're trying to run a brand that has to be, I guarantee you, more elastic than any of your brands. We were just talking about this a couple of minutes ago. As I was listening to all these conversations this morning and into the afternoon, I find myself jealous all the time because you all know exactly what business you're in. And I can't say the same thing. What business is AARP in? And by the way, we're not a business. We're a social mission organization. And a lot of people don't know that either. So I know what you think when you hear AARP. Has anybody not heard of AARP? No, it's really okay. So awareness is not our problem. We have tons of awareness. And our biggest competition is ourselves. So who we actually used to be. And I know that when people hear AARP, you hear insurance, discounts, and lobbying for retired senior citizens. Close? Close? Pretty spot on? And the truth is we do. And we're proud of it. But we do so much more. Because if we are here to help support people over 50, and by the way, their families and their communities, how can we be only about helping retired senior citizens? Anybody 50 who's retired? Anybody who knows anybody who's 50 who's retired? Because if so, I would like to marry them. You've got 20 more years of work. Guarantee it. And half the people in this country who are 65 are still working. So this stereotype we have in our head about people over 50 who frolic on the beach and play golf and fumble with technology and all wear beige is wrong. It's just wrong. So part of what we want to do is like, let's get it right. And we tend to look at celebrities who are turning 50, and we tend to look at actors and athletes and musicians, and we hold them up, and that's great. We do a lot of that too, because if you were an AARP member, is anybody an AARP member? Yay, thank you. You get a magazine, the world's largest circulation magazine, the only growing magazine, and it's amazing to think that we still print this magazine and people clamor for it. They really want it. But we always put a star on the cover, and it's sort of like People magazine with a special spin on people over 50. But the interesting thing for us is to try and find the narrative that speaks to everybody from 50 to 100.
Which is a huge swath of folks.
Absolutely. And you have a story about
Yeah.
you live in a house of people from what,
Yes.
15 to 100?
Yes, well, I don't live in the house, but my grandmother is 100. Yes, and she lives with my mom and my aunt, and right now my kids are with them.
So that was
So it's a multi-generational situation.
Which actually, your grandmother is very lucky because most people want to age. Do you think most people want to age in a nursing home? Mm-mm. They want to age and die in the home and community they love. But the only problem is, the only system that we have in this country is the nursing home system. So your grandmother is very lucky, and I think that that's wonderful.
We're lucky to have her for sure.
Yeah. So this universal truth that we try and find with AARP, and we have taken the brand and moved it. I'm really proud of a lot of the work that we've done with AARP over the last 10 years and even more in the last 5 years. But one of the things that we've landed on coming out of COVID, we launched a couple of years ago, plays into this longevity message that you could live half your life after 50. Think about that.
I probably will.
I'll bet you are, right? Are you looking forward to living half your life after 50?
I just need to make more money.
Well,
and save more money now is all. Because that's a long time.
Well,
right?
so you'd think we'd actually planned this. So if you could live half your life after 50, and that's not everybody, but longevity is something we should be celebrating. You could live to be 100. You want your money, your health, and your happiness to live as long as you do. And if you want your money, health, and happiness to live as long as you do, you need a wise friend and fierce defender like AARP. So it delivers on a little bit of a differentiator that we can own. And the happiness piece was the piece that got the most traction, which isn't surprising, but I just love that. Coming out of COVID, people started to see what they really cared about. And they care about their friends and their family and their futures. And we are expected to help on money and health, and we do, and we deliver really strongly. But that happiness message is really strong. So the longevity message is a great universal truth. No matter how old you are, you could live half your life after 50. And you want your money, health, and happiness to live as long as you do. So the rug pull that we have for the creative that we introduced, which has been working fabulously, is the younger you are, the more you need AARP. So if we are inviting you to join at 50 and retirement is 20 years away, how in the world are we closing that relevance gap? By reminding you, you want your money, health, and happiness to live as long as you do. So I brought one of the pieces of creative that we've run. Hey, Nick, can you hear me? Can Nick hear? You got it?
Oh, perfect. This up.
Okay. So this is the money spot, and I won't run health and happiness, but because of all the conversations we just had, you'll probably know why I picked money. Okay, let's clue.
10 years from today, Lisa Schneider will become the undisputed leader of a ginormous pack of dogs. Rescue dogs, to be exact. A second act made possible by the career reskilling courses Lisa's already taking now with AARP to help make sure her income lives as long as she does, so she can finally run with the big dogs and the small dogs who just think they're big dogs. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP.
I'm Lisa. I feel
You are
like
Lisa?
yes.
So the reason why we focus on that is because, again, if you think that AARP is, and you may love AARP, or you remember your grandmother loves AARP, but it's all about you as a retired person. So this was specifically to highlight a tangible value. We can also help you as a working person. Because I'm here to remind everybody, maybe you've gone through this or you know somebody who's going through this. If you lose your job after 50, it is a terrible slog. And that is where people will see the worst kind, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, of ageism. And you'll start to look at how jobs are posted and interview questions are listed. Well, this is a very fast-paced organization. Are you sure you're going to be able to do this? So we have to try and remember that people have to work or want to work, and AARP is there to help provide the resources. What Lisa was actually using there is a skill builder, which is a wildly popular tool that we have for people to upskill, reskill, or take career opportunities. And we're working with LinkedIn in a co-branded, launching a co-branded program with LinkedIn on the future of work, because we have 5 generations of people in the workforce now. Do you guys have 5 generations in your workforce?
We have 4 at my influencer marketing company, which we're really proud of.
Yeah.
But I think to a lot of the marketers in the room, just the fact that our audiences are often like over 50, we need folks on the other side of the table making sure that they're paying attention to those audiences and thinking about them thoughtfully.
Well, thoughtfully is kind of an interesting term. So one of the things that we think a lot about when we talk to folks in the creative industry like this is I run an initiative to the B2B, to the creative industry called Shaping a New Image of Aging. And a lot of the creative industry is getting better. It's getting so much better, but there are still huge pockets kind of stuck in the old cliches that I described before. Everyone's frail. Everyone's vulnerable. No one can use technology. That is the worst lie. This is an audience that does know how to use technology. Now, they may need some help with apps and things, but apps are usually pretty easy. So once they're shown, they are on Facebook, they're on Instagram, and they're on TikTok. I'm sorry, because now that'll mean everybody else will leave TikTok. But it is a huge opportunity, and for us to rethink how we are telling these stories of aging. Because this is probably your audience, whether you know it or not, target them or not, or want them or not. $8.3 trillion in this country alone is generated by people over 50. 53 cents on every dollar is spent by somebody over 50. And you may want to target the Gen Z audience, but chances are it's the over 50 that's buying your product. What they don't want is to be insulted or ignored in the advertising, and they get it. They get that they are being left out. So that is one of the big opportunities from a business standpoint. It's not charitable. It's not, oh, please get it right. There's a business opportunity here to think about the over 50 audience.
And even on the platforms like TikTok, for example, which skews youngest, their fastest growing segment is 30 plus.
And we're on TikTok.
Yes, you are in a major way.
And we love our presence on TikTok.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
I encourage you guys to check it out, but they have, my favorite is like a Gen X ASMR, where they take a Walkman and open it up, shake an Etch-a-Sketch, run a Polaroid, and then shake and fan the Polaroid. It's hysterical.
They are, and we do trivia contests. We do Boomer. I actually won the Boomer, the Gen X,
Gen Z, Millennial.
Well, Millennial, Gen X, and Boomer, which I was very surprised to win. And I was like, because the team reports to me, so I was just like, wait a minute, did you just edit it so that I got all the right points? But we have a lot of fun on TikTok, and we've talked about this. The conversation has been gearing toward this. We're not the same on TikTok as we are on Facebook, and I know you're not either. But we are authentic. So it's not like we're trying to be super cool. We are still being authentic to our brand, but I always consider it to be like our alter ego. We get to test things. We get to try things. And the interesting thing about younger generations, the millennials, the Gen Zs, they don't carry the same stigma. They actually like that they can get advice from AARP. They can learn things from AARP. And so we really lean into that and generally leverage that.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I also love your use of influencers. This is probably because I
Gee,
work
why?
at the company. But no, they're a really great way of like making authentic connections with audiences. And I know we want to talk a little bit about culture. So the fact that we're talking about an audience that's 110 million deep, that's enormous. How do you use culture to break that huge audience into segments that you can take an action?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say that we are probably still committing the crime of thinking of audiences based on age, which I'm sitting here thinking, let's not, trying to ask people, please don't think about age. But there is a natural break there. But for the most part, we think about where people are in their lives. Working, not working is a huge kind of split or segment for us. And the whole multi-generational nature, it's really, we think more about, and I'm sure your agencies and you all talk about these things, the jobs they have to do, right? So we think about people as caregivers. Is anybody here a family caregiver? Or know somebody who's, that's very hard. And if you're not a caregiver, you will be. And if you don't need a caregiver, you will need one. And I'm talking about family caregivers who have to quit their jobs, lose shifts. They have to get their kids to soccer and mom to the doctor, and they don't know how to juggle all of this. This is a huge issue for this country to face that is affecting real people. And so we think about, are you a caregiver? Are you a job seeker? Are you raising grandchildren? Grandparents raising grandchildren, a huge segment that gets often overlooked. And then there's the fun side. Are you traveling? Are you learning? The whole lifelong learning. Are you re-careering? So we do try and look at who you are and the jobs that you're trying to do versus just your age. Because one of the biggest problems we all have, and we know this, we haven't been doing this for decades, but we think if we have one data point about something that we know something about them. Oh, you're 56. That means you want this. Why? Why would that mean that that's what you want?
That's the fastest way to get it wrong.
To get it wrong,
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love what you all are doing in showing up in unexpected spaces. So hip hop turned 50 last year, which was a big hoopla. But so also it was like, corresponding with the fact that when you are 50, you're eligible to join AARP, and you guys did some really awesome work.
Yes, we had a lot of fun with hip hop turning 50. We do a lot of work in diversity. Music is a great way, as you all know, to cut through to a lot of different diverse audiences. Can I just say one other thing about what you just said? So you're all eligible to join AARP. You are eligible to join AARP if you are 18 years old. We can't invite you to join until you're about to turn 50. That's because we're a social mission organization, so I fully expect everybody here to join.
So now I think we all have homework.
And take advantage of all of the great discounts, and they are really good. But this idea of showing up in special places or in surprising places is really helpful for our brand. We have a whole the team that reports to me, we do sport, we do music, the hip hop piece, country music. It's a great way to slice and dice and reach different audiences based on a lot of different things. Geography, political ideology, that's a big part of our brand. There was another piece of creative that I brought that Nick has that, most of what I do on my team is top of funnel, right? Trying to change people's impression of AARP so they don't have just that, retired senior citizen label stuck in their head. And so that's why the ad that you saw and the complementary pieces around health and money. But late last year, we also created a really interesting opportunity to use advertising, paid TV, but to also drive membership, which is a big part of our business. We're a social mission organization, but we really want to drive membership conversion. So we have done an interesting sponsorship that helped us generate membership. Nick, it's only 15 seconds.
Satisfaction with AARP and the Stones. AARP members get special presale access to the Stones Tour 24, Hackney Diamonds. Presale starts November 29 at 10 a.m. local time. Not an AARP member? Learn more or join today.
Join today, and they did. So this was really fun. They actually came to us. the Rolling Stones came to AARP and asked us to sponsor the 2024 tour, which is going to be right across the street. If you live in Philadelphia, I'll be there. And so by doing the member presale, which we had never done before, that is really hard. I mean, maybe if you've worked at American Express, you're like, we know how to do that. We did not know how to do that. And it was hard, but we did. And we got 12,000 new members in 3 days. Because you couldn't get the member presale unless you were a member. And now we will be activating at the concerts. It was great. It was very well received. It was this iconic moment of these two legacy brands coming together. And even Mick Jagger liked it. He's quoted as saying, I really, really like this sponsorship.
Is that the first time you did an activation like this?
No, we do lots of concerts, but we never did a member ticket presale.
I'm
before.
curious what the retention is.
So our retention is actually, it depends on how people join.
I'm saying the retention off of an activation like this, where like obviously that's a remarkable 12,000, fabulous. I'm sure you're waiting to see what's the retention
We
on
absolutely
this.
will, yes. And I think it's on us, it's incumbent on us, and we're working on, improving the customer experience and not throwing everything that we do. AARP does a lot of stuff. When you have 110 million customers, like what don't you do? So we have to be really specific about what we serve up. But if we can make the customer experience better and serve up what those folks want based on why they joined, we were more likely to keep them.
Do you mind if I jump in here?
Oh, please.
So I really appreciate, and my point back before was that needs to get better because I've been turned off as a member because I call it brand equity destruction, because I find most brands, and raise your hands in this room if you're responsible for an email marketing and if you sign up for your own email marketing lists. Probably nobody. So none of you recognize how you're beating your customers over the head again and again and again. And for me, when I made that comment is because AARP doesn't leave me alone. And I want nothing. I mean, it's click, click, click. I don't even read. So I'm not even aware of the thing you do that actually is important to me. So I donate monthly to Planned Parenthood and ADL, and because those are really important things to me. And what you do to support aging and learning and everything that's going forward would be how to get to me, but I've never, ever seen that message. And my message is click buy because...
Totally get it. I completely 100% understand it. I appreciate that. And we have to get better at that. We are incrementally, and it'll start to accelerate a lot faster, but we have to get better at creating the right consumer experience. And also, frankly, to help you see that you can join AARP, not just to get the discounts, but to be part of something bigger, like a Join Our Fight kind of a campaign that
is we all talk about customer experience, and that's really important, right? Customer experience. How do they experience the brand? What we forget to look at is customer experience with our marketing. All you're looking at is customer experience with, did they get their discount? Did they get their tickets? Did they, whatever else to be, did they get their room? Did they get their problems taken care of? But what about the fact that you get them as a client? Like, I keep getting ads from Chase Manhattan Bank. I've been a client since 1980. And they keep pitching me with their ads to become a client. I have 8 different accounts. Like, why am I still getting that? Totally. And the same thing goes here is that, and what we forget to look is we all look at raise. How did we did our program, it activated, we got 12,000 new members. Okay, how many did you lose because you sent them 50 emails in the first 3 days? And we forget to look at that. So
I think you're absolutely right, 100%.
So this is not a criticism.
No, I love that you're saying that.
Industry.
Because we tend to only look at the upside. We know what the upside metrics are. It's very hard to look at the downside metrics and how much we're turning people off. We absolutely get that, and I promise you the experience would be better if you'd give us another try. Because I'll tell you what, I gifted my daughter a membership. She loves to travel. And she was just like, this is going to be great, Mom. I really like it. Are you going to bury me in emails? Because there are plenty of other brands that she's a very discerning. And I said, we're really going to try not to bury you in emails. So, we are getting better at it. I can't promise that it's going to be tomorrow, but if you join and then tell me what your experience is like, I'll definitely take that into consideration.
I want to quickly pivot to the fact that many brands in the room, brands period. I can't say that many brands in the room, but sometimes there's a disconnect between who buys from a brand and who the aspiring customer is. So for example, Lots of brands spend a lot of time trying to target Gen Z and Gen Alpha, not enough time on the 50+ audience that's actually purchasing the car or whatever the product is. Do you have any advice for those brands? And like, what does it look like when you get it right and you're talking to the consumers in a thoughtful way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. We don't want to create generational warfare. We never do that. We are always very respectful and recognize, like, I'll never be the one to say, hire the older worker. We do help hiring managers recognize the value of older workers, the experience, the wisdom, but the value of a multi-generational workforce. So I think that's a big part of it. And what you're talking about recognizing who your customer is possibly think a little bit differently about some of the tools and the data that we use, and also recognize that the people we're talking to, for the most part, live multi-generational lives. Older people don't just hang out with other older people. And so, when we were talking about this, I watch restaurant advertising, and if you run a restaurant or you're running restaurant advertising, this isn't a ding at all, but it feels like the older people are always background. They are filler in the background. Now go into that restaurant, and I promise you the older people are not just the filler. They are not just the background. And by the way, they're probably sitting at a table like your family.
Yeah.
And so just to really recognize that there can be more elasticity in who the audience is. Some of the ones that are getting it right, does anybody here have a Hyundai, or does anybody work on Hyundai? Because I don't have a Hyundai, but I love their story. And I love to use this as an example. And again, it's like the rug pull. So the story is this very warm father and daughter in the car off to college. And it's something we're all used to. If you've ever taken a kid to college, oh my God, it's such a huge transition. And the drive and the car and the camaraderie and the love. But he's not taking her to college. She's taking him to college. And it's that kind of a beautiful sort of not trying too hard, but little rug pull that recognizes all the different ways we're living. Indeed, did a beautiful spot. The traditional, the guy with the white hair, with the box, with the plant sticking out, walking out, and you're walking through the hallway and you're thinking, oh boy, the poor bloke lost his job. No, he's a new hire. And he's just started at like a web tech company. So this is how life really is happening. And to get those stories right, show him in a multi-generational workforce, or in a multi-generational family, or in a multi-generational restaurant, is a way to appeal to just about everybody without turning anybody off.
We have one more minute or so, so if there are any questions, we'll take them. If not, I'll ask one last one.
Anthony Taguchi, ladies and gentlemen.
You gave an insight earlier. People want their money and happiness to live as long as they do. I believe those were the words.
Money, health, and happiness. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I can't be awake without saying money, health, and happiness.
How did you land on that? How did you get there? What research did you look at? What did you do in the exploration to help you get to that point?
So that's a great question, and it's actually aligned. They're very high-level buckets, right? So in the money spot, we didn't talk about saving for financial future or retirement. We talked about getting a job. That's part of money. So we use those themes at a very high level that then we can pull down for some tangible values. So on the money side, we also talk about how we help you protect yourself and your family against fraud. That's money. Health is brain health. Mental health, physical health, social connections, and happiness is all those social connections, all those friends, the volunteerism. So we use them thematically, and it's basically how we are also structured and how we sort of line up our work. We tested it, so we did it backwards. We didn't get research that said, "I want my happiness to live as long as I do." We set up the premise and tested it. And it was universally 1,000%, yes, that's me across all ages and across all other diverse demographics. Does that answer your question?
What, I mean, I guess I'll kick it back to you because you probably have some insights as far as Vanguard goes. Like, do you see any synergies with what AARP is doing in Vanguard as far as money?
Who's going to say they want to outlive their money? And also, I do like, again, it's a universal truth. So anybody who sees that message, regardless of how old they are, is going to be able to relate. And then again, the longevity message. You know, thinking about longevity, this is something to be celebrated. This is an amazing miracle of mankind that people are living as long as they are. And so we should celebrate it and embrace it. But for us, it means empowering people to choose how they live as they age, because they got a lot more years ahead of them. And that's the special role that we can play. And, you know, we think about sometimes, like I mentioned, grandparents raising grandchildren, which is a whole different issue. And there's a lot of stuff there that's jurisdictional and huge challenges. But the importance, I mean, you can think about it in the family unit, how important the grandparents are for the love, the learning, the caregiving, which goes both ways. But again, I would encourage people to think about what that also means in the workplace. I know it sounds like I'm Molly one note here or something, but the notion that there's mentorship that goes both ways, learning that goes multiple ways, that having older workers is good for everybody. And so it's that whole wisdom, calm, I've been through this before, I know how to deal in a crisis, that I think a lot of workplaces need. And the value of the multi-generational workforce can't be overstated.
Workplaces and family. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Perfectly
guys.
said.